Nation of Fit in 10, welcome to day 59, 11 days to go. 11 days, and I've still got no feedback from anybody this week, so please send in your feedback. Some of you, somebody, ask me a question. I'm sure you have questions. www.trainonmain.com/fit-in-10 check-in. In Slack, Martina put in just recently some more recipes. So check out the food channel if you want some more recipes. I think there's even some desserts in there. And if you don't already know this, Martina is a professional chef she went to culinary school for 4 years. She worked in the industry for a number of years. And this is obviously before getting into the fitness industry. She knows her stuff and she knows how to make things taste good. So have a look at those recipes. I think they're worth trying. All right, today I want to talk to you guys about yo-yo dieting and why people who diet off and on, because that's usually what happens. People follow some sort of fad diet, usually a diet that is not sustainable. But why people, when they diet, they tend to get fatter over time. If you go back to, if you're familiar with the TV show The Biggest Loser, these people would go on TV show. I'm sure you probably all know about it, but I'll just describe it anyways. Maybe you don't. But basically, you'd get these pretty obese people, very overweight. They would come in and all of a sudden it would be like, hours and hours of exercise per day and then very, very low calories. And of course, they would lose a whack load of weight. It was crazy. But of course, when the show was over and, these people were revisited several years later, or maybe it was sooner than that, they had gained back their weight, all their weight, and then more. I think there's only one person that I know at least from what I understand, there's only one person from The Biggest Loser that actually kept the weight off. Definitely not a really good strategy there, but I guess it made for good TV. So I want to talk to you about why yo-yo dieting doesn't work, or why, I should say more specifically, why yo-yo dieting makes people fatter as they go through their, let's just call it their diet journey. Okay, and actually that's not really the best way to put this. It's why do people tend to get fatter if they diet off and on? That's really what the title of this should be. So that's what I'll make it. Okay, so why do people get fatter as they diet off and on? I made a little graph here, and I know it's not super interesting, but I've got a number of variables on this graph. So my y-axis, I can't really make one variable. Okay, we got 3 variables on the y-axis, which I'll explain this in a second. I'll show you this. The x-axis is just time. Okay, so I'm gonna put this up here. Don't be overwhelmed. It's just 3 colors, really. So here's my graph. Okay, x-axis down here, and of course the y-axis here, and I've got 3 different colors. The green represents calories, the red represents metabolism, and the purple represents fat loss, okay, or the blue, depending on how you see it. So here's how most diets start. There is a major calorie deficit, not a small calorie deficit. People want to see major results and they want to see them now. We want to see those results now. So they make a drastic cut in their calories, right? So their calories again is in green, okay? So beginning of the diet, major calorie deficit, super motivated. We want to see change, and surely we do. So what happens is we see a major calorie deficit, and through time, we see the metabolism drop, and we also see the body fat drop. So this is great. The diet's working. The fat's coming off. Now, metabolically, we don't want to lose metabolism, but inevitably this will happen regardless because we are losing some fat mass, and fat mass requires energy to sustain it. And also, when we do major calorie deficit, what happens? What's the other tissue that we lose? Yeah, we lose a lot of muscle tissue for sure, especially when there is a major deficit in calories. So, once we get to here, we're going to call this the end of the diet. We've lost all this fat. We're super happy. And now the diet can end, right? Because we got to our goal and hooray. Now let's just go back to regular life and cross our fingers that we keep the fat off, right? So we ramp the calories back up, and usually people ramp the calories back up more because they're absolutely starving at this point and they just cannot sustain it. And they're ravenous. So they ramp up the calories somewhere around the same as where they were before. Okay, because they're typically going back to their old lifestyle. This is generally what happens. You do the diet, you finish the diet, you go back to your old lifestyle. So old lifestyle, back to where the calories were. So the calories go up and we hold those calories for a while. Inevitably, the fat mass starts to go up. We basically primed the body through this major calorie deficit. We primed the body for major fat storage, right? So the blue here, the fat's going up over time, and we see some raising in the metabolic rate, but we notice here that as we go on and as we follow this through, the fat goes up and up and up, and we usually do an overshooting of body fat. So the body fat tends to go higher than what it was prior to the starting the diet. And our metabolism just doesn't recover. Metabolic rate does not recover, okay? Part of this is loss in some of the muscle tissue. So now let's look at where we stand at this point in time. Metabolic rate is lower, fat mass is higher. Man, this is not a good situation to be in. And now we start to feel a little more motivated because we're fatter than ever and we've got to get that fat back down. So what do? We start the diet again and we do major calorie deficit because that's what worked last time. So we go back to major calorie deficit. And of course, what do we see here? We see a drop in metabolic rate, of course, once again. And what we tend to see here is dropping of body fat, but we don't see that same kind of drop that we got over here. And why? Why? We've got this big disconnect between fat loss and metabolic rate. And part of the reason is because we just never got that metabolic rate to recover. Okay, so what happens is through time, following this diet, we don't see that, we see that plateauing happening sooner. We don't see the weight coming off. And so what's our next resort? Well, we got to drop the calories more. So we drop the calories even more. Oh my God, we are starving, but we got to get the fat off, right? And typically what we tend to see here is not a huge loss. Maybe we'll see a little bit more, but it's not going to be anything huge. Of course, we see a loss more of the metabolic rate. And then maybe we try one more time going ultra low calories and ultimately super frustrated and we don't know where to turn. Where do you turn when you're on low calories and you're just not losing any more body fat? All right, so this is typically what happens with yo-yo dieting. Now, maybe this doesn't happen the first time that you do major calorie deficit, but it tends to happen through time, and this is because people do very low calorie diets. When they think about diets, they think we got to go low calorie. We have to really restrict. And it is enticing because, I guess I'll put this down. It is enticing because you're going to see results very fast. But we have to think long-term, right? I always tell you guys, think long-term. And ultimately, when we work with the calories, whether we're losing weight or we're trying to maintain, we don't want a huge fluctuation in calories. Okay? We want something that's what? Reasonable. Reasonable, so it can be sustainable. Right? And then the idea is through time, which I talked about this in a video, I think just last year, maybe the day before, right? Undulating those calories so that over time, when we go through those peaks of higher calories, we can actually over time get that peak to be higher and higher. We can increase the calories as time goes on. And this allows us to basically get away from this, the opposite of this, right? Because the last thing we want is this. That's the last thing we want, right? We don't want to have high body fat, low metabolic rate, right? So we don't want that to happen. And that is, my friends, unfortunately, what tends to happen with a lot of people when they do these very low calorie diets over and over again. Okay. I think that's all I will say on that. If you have any questions, let me know. If you want me to, expound more on that, write me. Send me your feedback, maybe. Okay, message of the day. Let's take a look here. I haven't even looked at my message of the day on this day 59. Well, what do you know? What is the secret in all this? What is the secret? I've given you the secret. You know what the secret is. It's not really a secret. It's just being consistent and reasonable. That's where the secret lies in terms of getting weight off, keeping weight off. It has to be lifestyle based. It sounds lame. It sounds like, no, there's got to be something else out there. There's got to be a secret, but there just isn't. And anybody who's going to sell you a secret is lying to you. Okay, you've got to follow something that is reasonable. And of course, along with that, sustainable, right? We've got to be consistent with it. You are, physically speaking, just a reflection of your relatively recent past. If you overconsume, you're going to gain fat. All right. So, but again, we need to follow calories that are, again, something that is reasonable. And along with this, I'm going to highly recommend that you do some cardiovascular work and some weight training. Always maintain that weight training. That weight training. She was just talking to somebody tonight, and I saw a stat the other day that came from a very reputable source, so I trust it. And we lose anywhere from about 0.5 to 1% of metabolic capacity per year as we age, and we lose up to 4% power output per year as we age. Now, if you are weight training and you are working towards strength, which is really should be a goal of what you're doing when you're weight training, is trying to improve your strength, you're not going to see that power drop. And by focusing on your strength, okay, not entirely, but with strength, or we're obviously going to have some muscular hypertrophy, and this is going to help you to keep that weight off, right? Remember, we talked about all the reasons why you want to have muscle mass, all the reasons why you want to resistance train to help you to keep fat off. If you don't remember that video, I think I did it last video or the video before or something. Okay, so some cardio, some weight training. Be reasonable and consistent with your calories. That's where the magic lies. Positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself, and for the love of God, give some gratitude. Send me your feedback, for God's sakes. www.trainonmain.com/fit in 10. Check in, and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. See you guys.